Hey, welcome. Today, we're going to do something kind of cool. We're going to build a limited company, right from the ground up. Not with bricks and mortar, but by figuring out its financial story. Okay, let's just dive right in.
Whether it's a massive tech giant like Apple or just the friendly cafe on your corner, if it's a limited company, it plays by the same set of rules. They all have a story told through numbers. And by the time we're done here, you're going to know exactly how to read it. We're going to tackle this like a construction project. First, we'll look at the blueprint. What is a limited company? Then we'll grab the materials, shares, and ownership. After that, it's time for a progress report. With the income statement, we'll see how success gets shared, and then we'll finish up with a final inspection of the company's financial snapshot. All right, first things first, before we can get into any of the numbers, we really need to understand the structure we're dealing with. So, what exactly is a limited company? Okay, see that phrase on the slide? Separate legal entity? That's not just some boring jargon. It is the absolute cornerstone of a limited company. It basically means the business is its own person in the eyes of the law. It can own property, it can sign contracts, it can even be sued, all completely separate from the people who actually own it. And this is precisely why that separation is such a game changer. If you're a sole trader, there's no distinction between you and the business. If things go wrong and debts pile up, creditors can come after your personal savings, your car, even your house. But with a limited company, your liability is limited to your investment. If the company fails, you lose the money you put in, and that's it. It's this incredible safety net that really encourages people to take risks and start businesses. Okay, so if the company is its own thing, how do people own it and fund it? Well, let's move on to the building materials. It all comes down to one thing: shares. The easiest way to think about this is to picture the whole company as a giant pizza. Each share is just one slice of that pizza. So if you own a slice, you're a shareholder, which means you own a piece of the pie. The more slices you have, the bigger your piece of the company. It's a really simple but incredibly powerful way to divide up ownership. So why would you even want a slice of this pizza in the first place? Well, for the reward, of course. When the company does well and actually makes a profit, it can decide to share that success with its owners. That payment is called a dividend. It's basically the company saying, hey, thanks for believing in us. Here's your cut of the profits. But, not all shares are created equal. You've got two main types: ordinary and preference. Ordinary shareholders are the true owners. They get to vote on big company decisions, and their dividend payout can go up or down with the company's profits. Preference shareholders, on the other hand, usually don't get a vote, but they have a huge perk. They get a fixed dividend, and, this is the important part, they get paid first. Okay, so we've got our structure, and we've got our owners. Now, how do we actually know if the business is doing well? For that, we need to check the progress report, the income statement. This is the first of our 3 big documents. Think of it like the company's report card for the entire year. It answers one simple but absolutely critical question. After all the money came in and all the money went out, did we actually make a profit or a loss? And it tells this story in a really logical way. You start right at the top with revenue. That's every single dollar the company earned. Then you subtract the direct costs of what you sold to get your gross profit. From there, you take away all the day-to-day running costs like rent, salaries, marketing, and that gives you profit from operations. Finally, subtract any interest paid on loans, and what you're left with, that number at the very bottom, is the profit for the year. That's the one everybody's looking for. So, we've figured out our profit for the year. Fantastic. But what happens to that money now? Well, that brings us to our second document, which tracks exactly how that success gets shared. The statement of changes in equity is kind of like the bridge that connects the profit we just calculated over on the income statement to the overall value of what the owners actually have invested. It shows us precisely what happened to that profit for the year. And this leads us to a really important idea: retained earnings. See, when a company makes a profit, it has 2 choices. It can either pay it out to shareholders as those dividends we talked about, or it can keep it, or retain it, in the business to help it grow. The money it decides to keep is called retained earnings. And the math here is beautifully simple. You just take whatever retained earnings you had at the start of the year, add this year's profit from the income statement, and then subtract any dividends that were paid out to shareholders. What's left is your new up-to-date balance of retained earnings. All right, we've seen how the company performed over the year and what it did with its profits. Now it's time for the final inspection, a complete snapshot of the entire company at one single moment in time. Now, unlike the income statement, which is like a video of the whole year, this document is a photograph. It's taken on the very last day of the financial year, and it gives you a perfect picture of the company's health by listing out everything it owns and everything it owes. And it all boils down to this one single, perfectly balanced equation. On one side, you have the assets, all the stuff the company owns. On the other side, you have how that stuff was paid for, either through liabilities, which is money it owes to other people, or through equity, which is the money from its owners. And here's the magic part. Those two sides must always, always be equal, no exceptions. So just think for a second about how these three pieces fit together. The profit from the income statement flows directly into the statement of changes in equity. That statement then calculates the final owner's equity number, which then becomes a key part of this final snapshot. You see? It's not three separate documents at all. It's one continuous financial story told in 3 chapters. And honestly, that's the real takeaway here. Once you get how it all works together, you stop seeing a bunch of random numbers and you start seeing a story. You can see the struggles, the big wins, and all the decisions a company made over a year, all written down in the language of finance. So now you have the tools to read that story. The only question left is, what will next year's chapters hold? Will profits soar? Will the company take on more debt to expand? Or will it reward its shareholders with bigger dividends? The story is always unfolding. Thanks for joining me.